If there is an haute couture in the gin business, these two here, the Wild Botanical Gin and the Wild Sloe Gins, are gliding down the runway because Master Distiller Henrik Nerst from Wild Distillery Bornholm has gone all the way in his attempt to make the best possible gin on Bornholm. And I mean all the way. Let's take a closer look at these fine handcrafted gins and this amazing gin project. Hi guys, and welcome to High on Gin. There is a very good reason why I mention haute couture when talking about Master Distiller Henrik Nerst and these two gins from the Wild Botanical Gin series. Haute couture is normally known as this high-end product, this handmade, time-consuming product made from high-quality products, really expensive and done with an extreme attention to detail and to finish. You know, this whatever it takes kind of concept. And these two gins here are just that, based on the wildest gin project in Denmark, as far as I know. And let me explain to you how wild this project really is by looking at a few of the many unique elements in these products here. And let me introduce you to the juniper berry, the water used in these products, the bottles, and of course the end result itself. But let's start with the foundation, the juniper berries, because this alone would have made many people give up. The Wild series gin is made with only juniper berries from Outtro on Bornholm, a truly magnificent and beautiful place on the northern tip of the island. And when I visited Outtro, it really struck me how beautiful this area is. The rocky boulders, the heath, the silence that was only pierced by the wind in the bushes and the trees, and then the occasional sound from the sheep and goats that was walking around freely. It really struck me how rough and how powerful the nature here is, and despite the relentless wind, how nature adapts and how tough the juniper trees truly are. And if you have seen my video about the juniper berries, you know that the surroundings has a huge impact on the taste of the berry and therefore on the gin. And of course, that goes for these berries and these gins as well. But to be able to harvest the juniper berries here from Outtro, you need to be a very persistent and patient man like Henrik Nerst is, because this is a very unique area that is protected by the Danish Nature Agency under the Ministry of Environment. And they are very careful of who they let do what. So besides getting through this very, very cumbersome process of getting the permission to pick some of the local juniper berries, he not only had to make sure that he only took a maximum of 20% of the berries on a tree, but he also had to document it by taking pictures of each tree that he was harvesting from before and after, and then sent the documentation of each tree in a detailed report to the agency. This, of course, is a very time-consuming task, but at the same time you have to respect and appreciate that they are very protective of these special places. Today, as far as I know, they have found a more better and more efficient way of doing this. And then there is another important part in gin, and that is of course the water used in these gins here. The water used to produce the gins are from a water plant on the island called Smålungsværket. And this particular plant was awarded the tastiest water in Denmark at a so-called Water Grand Prix, judged by, among others, two sommeliers. Yes, there is such a thing as a Water Grand Prix. The water comes from a water well that is drilled, I think, about 100 meters down in one of the oldest geological deposits that lays on top of the bedrock. And, it takes the water approximately 50 years to get here. But of course, Henrik had to filter the water before using it. But in order to maintain this very, very high and unique quality of the water, he had to filter the water without removing this uniqueness in the water. So Henrik contacted the experts from BWT and some experts from Danish Technological Institute and gave them the task to build this purifying system that filtered the water, but making sure that it was still the best and most unique water possible. And so they did. So if you have done everything possible to make a truly amazing product, you need to wrap it in the best possible way. So let's take a look at these bottles here. And to give the gin the right finishing touch, Henrik Nerst did what he always does. He went for the best solution out there. He bought a so-called glass printer. And this is probably one of the most expensive ways to make a label on a bottle. We're talking about a printer that costs more than 100,000 euros. But the result, I mean, simply just take a look at it. I mean, it's simply mesmerizing, you know, this design. I love the depth, I love the color, I love that it underlines the uniqueness and all the hard work that has gone into this project here. This is probably one of the most beautiful labels I have ever seen. And the results of all these cumbersome tasks and the investments is seen here in the Wild Botanical series with its gin, the 2019 Harvested Edition, and this, the Sloe Gin. This, the 2019 gin, is the second release in this series, and the thought is that Henrik will be doing a new and very limited edition every year, so you're able to taste the difference in the juniper berries from year to year. The first edition, I have to add, was not only with juniper berries, but was added a little bit of orris root picked in a private garden in Årstale, also on Bornholm, and then a tiny amount of local rose hip leaves. But from 2019 and going forward, it will only be juniper berries in it. So we're talking about a single botanical gin here. Let's check it out. This is so crisp, so precise. It is full of these very green, piney, resinous notes, almost like if it comes from fresh spruce shoots, with a touch of minerals hanging in there, and the alcohol that, you know, really explodes in your mouth and brings out these black peppery and spicy notes, and this long, singy aftertaste. This is exactly how I had imagined it would taste when I stood in Raunedalen and felt the power of the wind and saw the rocks in the ground and admire these windswept juniper trees. This gin is simply wow. And as a one-off project, Henrik did an exclusive high-end sloe gin based on the 2018 Wild Botanical Gin and some hand-picked sloe berries harvested just south of Raunedalen. He took this very amazing gin and macerated the sloe berries in it for a whole year. Then he filtered the liquid and took the berries and pressed them and grinded them to get as much flavor out of them, especially the fine notes of marzipan that are hidden in the pit. Then fresh sloe berries were added once more, then resting it for an additional month to give it this additional layer of freshness, and then it was put to rest in an oak cask for, I think, 6 months. And although the official sloe gin description states that it must have a minimum of 100 grams of sugar per liter to be called a sloe gin, you know, Henrik chose not to add sugar. And I love that about this gin. Because, yeah, it is such a powerhouse of a sloe gin. It is 45% ABV, and it's packed with all these flavors from the rough terroir from which it comes. I love that you can see the sediment in the bottle, that you can really sense the piney notes from the juniper, and you can, you know, really feel the tartness from the sloe berries. You feel the high alcohol percentage, but you also get these very fine notes of marzipan and the oak tree. But most of all, you get the berries and the juniper berries. This is as real, as honest, and as beautiful as it gets. It's not like these sweet artificial sloe gins that are covered in sugar and that, reminds me most of all like a liquid marzipan bar. And I just hate the fact that this is a one-off. I really, truly wish that Henrik would continue doing this slow version. So I only say this once to you guys. Get a bottle while you still can, because soon they will all be gone forever. And even though the prices for these totally unique products, are always higher compared to other gins, I still think it's worth it. I truly, truly do. This is unique in its taste, it is unique in its design, and it's unique in the story. 3 things in one. The best Kinder Egg a true gin lover could wish for. And then there is another side effect that might interest you in this project. Because once they have done the hard part of making gin haute couture, this amazing setup at the distillery can be used for others and less expensive gins. So in the next episode, I will introduce you to the 8 gins from the distillery, a collection that will satisfy any gin enthusiast, whether you are a fan of the more classical gins, the floral gins, or the more unusual gins. So, to be continued.